Hey, chemistry kids, this is Mr. Pham, and this is your video for April 7th, 2020. This should be the day 7 video. I want to only introduce one concept in this video, and it's the concept of frequency, which is a term that you've probably heard before. Looking at this picture on my screen now, you can see something called Wi-Fi standards. Now, if you've never really messed with your network before at home, or maybe you don't have one, then you probably don't realize that the signal that you receive from your network router can come in two different frequency bands or two different pathways. One is 2.4 gigahertz and the other is 5.0 gigahertz. If you remember our metric stuff from the beginning of the year, you would recognize the term giga. Giga means a certain amount of, it's essentially a multiplier. Giga means 10 to the negative ninth, or 1 billion times. And that will become important later on. But if your network at home, you might have been told, if you are, got a sophisticated wireless network, you might have been told that you kids, you can only be on the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth. Because sometimes when you try to connect to someone's Wi-Fi, you might see two different numbers come up, 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. I tell my kids that they are not allowed on the 5.0 gigahertz because it's the better, it's the faster, and I don't want them slowing down my connection. So I make them connect to that 2.4 gigahertz. Well, that is a frequency. And a lot of wireless networks use radiation or electromagnetic radiation to send a signal, and they do it at different frequencies. So that's one exposure to frequency, but you've also been exposed to a different frequency, and that is radio stations. For example, Kisser, if you look up their information, they work on the frequency of 93.7 megahertz. Now that's mega versus what your wireless internet is using, which is gigahertz. So there's a difference in frequency. And if you, now Kisser 93.7 is the one that I would listen to all the time, especially when I was growing up. But I also listened to B98, which was 97.9. And that is a frequency. Those numbers aren't just some arbitrary number given to them. It is a specific frequency that they will send a signal out on versus Kisser, which is 93.7. And if there's various radio stations out there, each one's operating on their own frequency. In fact, FM stands for frequency modulation, which allows them to change the frequency to give this station one broadcast signal, but different stations different signals, which is different from AM radio, which is amplitude modulation, where the radio stations change how powerful their signal is, and that uh, gives them a specific uh, section of the radio spectrum to use. So that is going to be it for your day. For today, the assignment will be posted, and you will be turning that in at the end of the week. All right, talk to you later. And this is where I awkwardly stop recording.